and I was like, I got to see more immediately.
Yeah, yeah. You will be excited. You will be satisfied, I believe. It's,
Yes.
if you liked what you saw in the trailer, just imagine that just a lot, a lot longer.
Yes. The thing is I never want to speak ill of movies that already exist. But for
Yes.
me, as like a Mortal Kombat fan, I felt like I felt like it didn't capture it captured the fun, certainly, because the other versions of the movie are increasingly bananas,
Right. Yeah.
like as they go on. But I don't feel like it captured like the universe in kind of a serious way. And that's sort of what's going on in filmmaking right now, is universe building, because everybody wants like sequels.
They do. They want to franchise everything they can, and rightfully so. Look, if you've got something that you think is great, that you think there's an audience for, why not? Dig in,
Totally.
yeah, expand it. Um,
Well, and so that's what I got a sense of from watching this trailer, is that it seems to me that like they brought in a true fan
yeah,
of the property, and you're getting a shot at giving us some of the stuff that we haven't gotten before in what seems to be kind of a grounded way.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I I'm probably I don't want to I have no idea, but I'm going to say probably one of the biggest gamers slash screenwriters that is working here. It's just a passion of mine. It's something that I've always done since I was a kid. I just it was like my go-to, my escape. A lot of people did other things. I was that weird kid that was in the basement playing games, until it was bedtime. So I'm thankful for them, in a lot of ways. Gaming really got me through some rough stuff, and so game like Mortal Kombat that I grew up on, that I was at the arcade, putting my quarter up on the machine, holding it King of the Hill style for hours. It was just something that I truly loved. It was so when it presented itself as a job, as an opportunity. I mean, I had to stop myself from throwing myself through the windows of New Line. I just was like, please, for the love of God, give me a crack. And I was still somewhat of a rookie. I'd been doing it for a few years, about 4 or 5 years, and thankfully I'd worked with New Line on a couple movies. And so when this became available, I just elbowed everybody I could, and thankfully they said, okay, we're going to give you a shot. It was an amazing opportunity. I've been on this movie for 4.5 years.
Oh my God, that's something that so many people don't realize.
Yeah.
Everyone that's toiling behind the scenes are attached to things forever. And sometimes, not in this case, it sounds like, but I mean, sometimes you want to make it, and then all the studio heads change and it gets shelved for a while, et cetera. And in this case, 4.5 years is a long time to see it come to fruition.
4.5 years was my turn. So they were, yeah. So this movie had been in development since I want to say 2010. So that's a pretty good idea of how long it can take to make one of these films, to get one of these films into production. And this was not an easy film to greenlight, right? If you think about it, we want to make a very faithful to the fans R-rated video game adaptation. I mean, where do you even look at what do you even look out for comps for that? How do you say, well, this movie did well? I don't even know if there is an R-rated video game adaptation. Has there even been one? I'm not even sure.
I want to say that
I
it's,
can.
I feel like Assassin's Creed might have been R rated.
No, it's PG-13.
Was
It's PG.
it? And then
Yeah,
the what about that? What about that really scarily criticized Doom? Was that PG-13 too?
that might have been. No, I don't know. That might have been R-rated. I have no idea. That's right. I forgot about that. Forgot that.
Oh, sorry to remind you.
Oh, God, thanks for that. Uh, now I've got first person The Rock in my mind. No, yeah. So it was, there was a lot of things to kind of weigh to whether or not to make this movie, and we had to get it right. That was the thing. We had to get it right. And when I came in 2016, I inherited a script, and just to be quite faithful, I mean, honest, I was there because they knew that it wasn't working. That's why they wanted a new writer. And I looked at it and I just said, it didn't feel like Mortal Kombat. Like it just didn't. It was betraying the mythology. It was betraying the characters in ways that it just kind of felt wrong to me. And so part of my mission was, I'm going to get this back in shape and give the fans what they really want. Thankfully I was one, so it wasn't like I had to go research. It's just like I was writing a movie for myself. you know And that's the best type of writing you can do, is write for yourself, because that's just passion. That's just pure love.
I
Um,
love New Line for that.
yeah, me too.
I work with them a lot on their horror movie titles,
Yeah,
and it is such a wonderful studio to support because they're hitting different niche demos, so they're more willing to take a chance. So it's you've
right.
got Andy Muschietti in it, who's a true fan and an artist, and he creates this amazing thing. And then we've got something like Mortal Kombat, huge following, big on nostalgia, still
Yeah.
popular today, and they get somebody like you in. And what's the number one thing that you feel like your script is achieving for those fans? Because the Mortal Kombat mythology is actually wildly complicated.
Wildly complicated. It's insane. I mean, if you tried to follow the games, they've retconned, they've rebooted, they've switched timelines, they've gone all over the place. It would be virtually impossible to capture that and translate that to screen. So to answer your question, I think the one thing that that I'm really excited about, one thing that I would say is the stamp on this script and this movie, is that it's giving fans authenticity. It's bringing a sense of authenticity to the characters. It's bringing authenticity to the world, and it's bringing authenticity to that, the stakes behind what they're fighting for. It's, you mentioned, I think you said grounded, right? You mentioned that the film feels like it's grounded, and that was a big mission statement for, especially for Simon McCoy. He's an amazing director. This is his first feature film, and he's going to impress a lot of people when people see this. He was really big on that. He wanted to really find the emotion and the heart behind these characters. He didn't just want it to feel like popcorn fluff. He didn't want it to feel like a bubblegum, brightly colored superhero movie. I think I really give him a lot of credit for that, and I tried to put it in the script as well. That, look, we can create a really great video game film that also has real stakes and real emotion and is a good movie. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. And it pissed me off for so long watching these adaptations, where I just felt like, why can't they be great films? Why do they have to be put in this box? Why do they have to be labeled the video game curse? I hated that term. So I'm really excited that fans will, I hope, maybe, in my mind, certainly, I think it's for the first time they're going to get an adaptation here where it just feels really authentic.
I'm excited. This
Yeah,
is I
I
when I
agree
look
with
at,
you.
especially like I the when you mention emotion, I start to think about like Scorpion's backstory, especially because they're those scenes in the trailer have been broken down a lot just to see, because everybody's thinking like the origin of this particular character is, it sort of gives the movie its heart in
That's
a way.
exactly right. That's
And
exactly right.
it seems like it, I'm trying to, like, I want to ask you questions and I don't know what you can tell me. Like,
Okay.
I know that people are finding Easter eggs like on posters
Yeah.
in the background.
I know, it's wild. I've never seen anything like this. I mean, the fans of Mortal Kombat fans are intense. They are an intense, passionate, wonderful bunch. Wonderful bunch. They let you know when they're upset very vocally. But yeah, they've been pausing every still frame of the trailer and searching for things, and it's so much fun because we put a lot in there. We put a lot of eggs and a lot of just fan service stuff, because I thought we kind of knew that might be the case, and so we wanted to reward that. We wanted to give the fans like even more to look out for.
It's like I'm thinking even that this genesis of Jax's cyborg
Yeah,
arms,
yeah.
even that, I'm like, yes, that holds a lot more water than some of the previous things that we've seen.
Yeah, so that's a good example of of a part of the mythology that we felt okay taking in a different direction. Because in the games, if you know the mythology and the lore really well, then you know that in the games, a character named Ermac was the one that took Jax's arms. That was a character that it didn't make sense for this story to introduce yet. So we wanted to use, we felt like there was a creative license there, a kind of precedent that was set to. And what I mentioned by that is that Jax has lost his arms in like 3 different ways.
Right.
So we thought, okay, I think we have some license here to come up with our new way in. But what we really wanted to do with that was we wanted to create Sub-Zero's character. We wanted to, really make him feel like this menacing thing And so we did it intentionally for the story and for the character. And yeah, people really reacted well to that. They were like, oh gosh, the YouTube reaction videos were some of the most amazing things I've seen.
When
That trail.
I it's fun to pick apart. Like because I wouldn't even consider myself like a super deep cut fan. I just really loved the game growing up, and then was always sort of amused by
Yeah.
what movie studios thought fans wanted to see. And I just rewatched the very first movie version of Mortal Kombat the other day, and I was like, oh
Interesting.
Jesus. Like,
Come a long way, huh? We've come a long way.
and that's why this trailer is like lighting me up, because there's something interesting about the timeliness of it as well. I love how diverse this cast really is.
Yeah. That's really important to us. I just to speak to that, that was, and it wasn't just that, the idea of casting, having a diverse cast. It was that we wanted to be authentic to the characters that those actors were portraying. And so what that means is, I think too often in the past, there may be an Asian character in a movie. And so, hey, any Asian actor can play that role, right? Well, that's not really, that's wrong, right? So what we wanted to do is say, no, we have a Japanese character. So let's go and find an amazing Japanese actor. And we did that, getting Hiroyuki Sanada, one of the most greatest Japanese actors of all time, is in this movie. And it was the same thing across the board. It was even look at Bihan, right? It's a Sub-Zero. So Sub-Zero is of Chinese, he's a Chinese a warrior. So we wanted to go out and find an actor of Chinese descent. That's Joe Taslim, another amazing actor and martial artist. So we wanted to be authentic there, and that was important to us. Again, it's that authenticity, right?
Well, sure. And so what kind of diving in did you do to help further that authenticity? Because for anyone who is looking at who is writing a project these days, right. I think that's a legitimate question to ask. Like, what were you doing past even just casting characters appropriately based on their origin?
Yeah, I think I was basically, in addition to screenwriter on this movie, I was kind of the resident Mortal Kombat expert guy that everybody, whenever anybody had a question about things, they would just call me up. So I remember having like fun conversations with like the head, president of New Line would just call up and they would be like, "Can we do this? Like, does this work with the mythology?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, sure, it does." So the authenticity isn't just characters, right? It's also the mythology, it's also the lore, it's also the world. And it was me making sure that whenever I felt like something was deviating, or I felt like we were going too far in one direction, taking too much creative license, it's when I would kind of raise my hand and say, you know what, maybe we should scale back a bit. I think this is, for example, like I remember at one point there was a joke that somebody had thrown around for the script where somebody went up to Sonya Blade and said, is that really your name? Sonya Blade, is that really your name? And she says, oh, it's more of a nickname. And I said, no, guys, I get the joke because she had a knife. She was playing with a knife. It wasn't a good joke, trust me. But I basically said, no, we're not going to change. Let's not. That is her name. That is her name. We're not going to try to mess with what's there. Let's be true to it. Let's be authentic to it as much as possible.
There you go. And let's talk about, everyone has a lot of questions about our main character.
Yes.
And so Cole Young is apparently he's your creation for this story, right?
Yes.
What can you tell us about him? Because I love the theories about who he might be.
I love reading them. People have gone wild. There's many YouTube videos just on people speculating Cole and what his connection to the mythology is, and I love that. I love that it's getting people interested. And again, part of the reason, maybe I should speak to why this decision was made. And it's really two things. The creative side of it is that we wanted to bring something original to the table. We didn't just want to rehash the same story that you've seen over and over again. I mean, to me, doing that, like trying to capture or just remake the '95 film, nobody wanted to do that, right? It would feel like it was we were doing a disservice if we just didn't try to bring something new. Mortal Kombat is a franchise that has consistently brought new characters to the table every single game. They're always bringing new personalities in. They're bringing new. So it's not like one of those properties where it's always stuck with like that one core group. So we also felt there was precedent there for us to bring in a new character. And so yeah, we wanted to have a character that we could kind of mold and create, and a canvas that we could work with. So what I will say is that Cole is extremely important to the story that we're going to go on, the journey that we're going to go on. And the one thing that I wanted to make sure as the writer was that if we were going to do this, if we were going to bring in a new character, a new protagonist to this world, that he would feel intrinsically tied to the mythology. That I would find a way to make sure that he works in the pre-existing mythology, that it doesn't just feel like somebody that's just thrown in to be thrown in, that really has no place being there. You know?
Got it. So it's not like fish out of water. Surprise, you're invited to this
Uh,
magical tournament.
I
Like,
really didn't. I really wanted to avoid the kind of the cliches and things that we've seen in the past with introducing a character. The other thing I really wanted to avoid is I didn't want, and everybody wanted to avoid this. This wasn't just me. We didn't want our character to outshine the other characters that people know and love. And I feel like, without naming other franchises that have had many films that have done this, I wonder which one I'm talking about. We didn't want a new character just to show up and be the poster child, and then all of a sudden there's Liu Kang in the corner doing something, you know?
totally.
That was important to us. So all the characters that are in this trailer, all the characters that you see, all those great iconic Mortal Kombat characters, they all have their screen time. They all have, their own great moments to shine and kick ass. Our protagonist is just one of that ensemble. He doesn't steal the limelight. He doesn't take away from it. And Louis Tan is an amazing actor and a great martial artist, and he brought everything he had to that role. I mean, he did almost all his own stunts in this film. I mean, it was nuts. He
Oh
just
my God.
couldn't stop the guy. He was an animal. So, I think that also helps when we're bringing in a new character to say, hey, look, we're bringing in someone that really knows their shit. And so it's I'm excited for people to see it. I think people are going to like it, and they're going to understand after they see the movie how it all makes sense.
I also think that if his birthmark branding that he shows in the trailer, like if that is in fact his invitation to the tournament and that pans out, I think that is, I would like to nominate that as the newest trend for wedding invitations in 2022.
Yeah,
It's like, hey, couples
maybe
in
a
love,
brand. Yeah,
come up with a symbol and then send everybody a brand. It's going to be amazing. That's how they get
great
it.
marketing. It's good marketing for your wedding. Yeah,
You answered one of my questions about seeing, are we going to see certain characters in the movie that we're seeing in the trailer? Because when Melina shows up,
yeah,
the first shot I was like, oh cool, and the second shot,
yeah.
like she's licking blood off of her sai, I was like, yes.
Yeah, Melina Sissy Stringer is now, again, this is one of her first major roles. But she just blew everybody away with her commitment to auditioning for the role, to training for the role. I mean, she's posted videos, and I think on her Instagram, of her doing flips and kicks and spinning with the sais, and so she really had a crash course learning how to fight. And Melina is one of those characters that, again, all these characters have these incredible fan bases. Like there's a fan base of Mortal Kombat, and then each one of these characters has this own very diehard, like, just don't mess anything up fan bases. And Melina is one of those very passionate fan bases. And so, understandably, the first thing they said when they saw the trailer was, "Where are her teeth?" And we will say what we said to everyone is, just wait for the movie. Wait for the movie.
Yeah, so this is not a Sonic the Hedgehog situation. Like,
That's
just
not,
wait.
no.
Okay, that's good to know.
We thought through these things. Yes, we don't have to go back and redesign anything. We got you
I
covered. We got you covered.
It's a nice feeling again to know that we're in fans' hands. I
Yeah.
take a lot of comfort in that, and I'm also really excited about how much the effects have improved since
Yeah.
we've seen certain characters, because obviously like Goro is going to completely benefit from modern
Yeah.
technology.
You don't want the puppet back? You don't want the
Yeah,
big
sorry,
goofy the
no.
goofy puppet that apparently
As,
took 50 people to operate or something?
as much as I am a proponent of puppets in general, the answer is no, I don't want that back for this movie. So what's the one thing, what's the one thing you can reveal
Yeah.
that you were so excited to see come to life?
Wow.
After seeing this from the start, like what blew your mind?
That's a really good question. Because I was consistently blown away by the crew that made this film. But I will say, one thing that I was really excited to see, because I was really passionate about it when I put it in the script, and it was something I really wanted in there, and you see some of it in the trailer, so I'll speak to it, is clearly there's going to be a little bit of a fight between Sub-Zero and Scorpion. You get a taste of it. You get a taste of it in the trailer, and I mean in full regalia. They fight as Bihan and Hanzo, and that's an incredible fight. But there's going to be them with all their powers going at each other, and that fight was something that I really wanted to make sure it got in the script. I really wanted to make sure it had a pivotal part in the story. It took a little while for that to happen. And it's funny, like sometimes these things aren't immediate decisions. Sometimes you have to say, hey, I really think this will work. And then a year later, you finally get to make it work. And we got that in there. And I was like, okay, so we got this great scene. These two guys are going to go at each other. Huge stakes, big emotional stakes behind it that you will see once you see the film. And I was like, I wonder how they're going to do it. So when you write a fight scene, right, you do the best you can. Right, he's going to use this power, or he's going to, he's going to catch the spear, he's going to pull him in, he's going to throw him, right? You do the best you can. You come up with the coolest stuff you can think of. But then a whole team of people come in, and talented stunt coordinators. So we have Kyle Gardner, Chan Griffin, who did the fight scenes in this movie. They come in, and then they take what you wrote and they build out this insane choreograph. It's beautiful. It's like the most beautiful choreographed thing you could imagine. And there's a shot in the trailer that I would love to take credit for, but I won't, where he slices him and freezes the blood. And it was one of those reaction trailers, and then stabs him, and people lost their shit. And I was like, look, guys, I should have just lied and said I wrote that, but I didn't. That is something that when you bring in talented people that are good at what they do, they bring so much to the table. And those guys just crushed it. And that was one of those ideas that became a staple of the trailer that they just invented. So when I saw that fight come together, I was like, oh my God, like I thought this was going to be cool, but holy, people are going to lose their minds when they see it.
I can't wait to figure out if it is Sub-Zero that's responsible for Scorpion becoming Scorpion. Like that's what I want. That's what I'm watching for. And that part in the trailer is, and then the wall of the ice, and I mean, it's just like, yeah.
Straight from the game, right? That's a move from the game. Again, it's just, there's so much. People were freeze framing the movie's trailer and then putting it up against stills from the game, and they were almost identical. And they were like, "This is insane! How close these guys have hewed to the game." And yeah, you'll see. You wanted this thing to come to life. It's coming to life.
So as we wrap up, the thing that I was remembering as I was strolling down memory lane as a little kid playing this was that I would choose different characters based on like my mood of the day.
Amazing.
And I realized I do have a trend. I generally stick to the good guys.
Yes,
I never really chose like a lot of Sub-Zero, like that side of things. Right. But what about you?
Yeah.
Like who speaks to you, and why and when?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. So I get asked that a lot. I get asked like, who's my favorite character? Who did I play growing up? And when I would go to the arcade, I had this little arcade in a bowling alley in my town, and we would go there after school and play. And it was the MK2 machine. That was like the big arcade. The first arcade was popular, but when the second one dropped, that was the one. That was like everybody went to play that. And so I would play Katana a lot on that machine. She became my favorite, and I just loved I don't know. There was just something about, I think it was, I honestly think it was because video games back then, if there was a female character in the game, they're usually in a bikini. It was usually done in some ridiculous way. So what I loved about, Mortal Kombat and they started with Sonya and things like that, is they actually had these intensely powerful, cool female characters. And I loved Katana. I just thought she was such a badass. She was a princess. She had this backstory, but she was just, and her moves with her fan moves were so cool. So I really love that character. That was my go-to. That was my main character to play. And yeah, I would say I'm excited to hopefully bring that character in.
I definitely, in growing up, I sort of always am looking at like, who are my heroes and how has that contributed to who I am today? Yeah. If I'm trying to like pump myself up. And I was definitely a Sonya the majority of the time. And like in Street Fighter, I love Chun-Li deeply. Also because I have terrible lower body strength. So I just like wanted to be inspired.
Fair enough. Wish fulfillment.
And then like, and then as far as like people from movies, women in television. It was like Elvira,
Yeah.
Judy Tenuta, like these wisecracking, smart women that very much informed my work today.
Yeah.
And so I guess actually the last thing I'll ask is, since you are such a super fan of Mortal Kombat, like what other movie are you a super fan of? Like it comes on and you will not turn it off ever.
Oh man. Okay, that's okay. Well, I'll give it to you. So my favorite movie, I know every line of dialogue in this film. I am the worst person to watch it with for that reason because I will just do every single line, and you'll get it with this next thing I say. And every Christmas Eve, my dad and I would watch it, and we would put it on, and it was our movie. And this, by the way, and it's Die Hard, and this goes all the way back. Now this goes back to like the '90s, before the whole Die Hard as a Christmas movie thing became a big popular pop cultural thing. We would watch it every Christmas Eve. That was our movie, and he introduced me to it, and it became like our thing. We didn't have a lot of like movies we bonded over, but for whatever reason, like Die Hard, we both knew every line, and we just sit there and quote it to each other through the whole thing. And it never got old to us. It was like I think our favorite movies are the movies that we have emotional attachments to. And for me, like those memories, and and my dad is still alive, and we still do it. Well, this year's we can't because we were separated, but that memory of watching that movie with him, it'll never leave me. And it's also a perfect film. It's also a pitch perfect movie.
It absolutely is. And I love the fact that Alan Rickman had no idea why so many people loved Hans Gruber like they
Oh
did.
gosh,
Like he was so like, I get more question. I've done so many things in my life, and that's the one thing that everyone remembers. And he's like, I don't get it.
Oh my gosh. Rest his soul. Rest his soul. He was such an amazing actor and so ahead of his time, I think, for that role. But it was blown away by him.
Did you know that when they created that shot of him falling,
Yeah.
that they
Yeah.
were supposed to let him go on 3?
I know.
Did you watch the Netflix show The Movies That Made Us?
No, is it good? Should I check it out? What
You
is it?
should 100% check it out. It is a show for movie lovers.
Oh,
One of the episodes, I believe it might even be the holiday version. One of them is on Die Hard, and
okay.
it will give you all the ins and outs of how they made the movie. It's great to see like the John McTiernan interview, because he's also like,
Oh, he doesn't get it. Well,
there's only
he was on a roll. He came off Predator, and then he went to do Die. I mean, like that was like, think about like a director nowadays doing Predator and Die Hard, like two of the most classic, iconic action films of all time, within the span of like a few years. I
totally.
mean, he was on fire, and
There
then
is
he went away.
there is only one person that is notably absent from the interviews.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but everyone other than that participating is awesome. The whole show is fantastic. They only have like a handful of episodes, and I always want more because I sense like a kinship in you and me.
Oh, for sure. No, I grew up. I studied film in college. I mean, I was a film kid. I went to the movies 10 times a week. It was my thing. I loved it. So yeah, anything like that, I would relish. And I definitely sense that from you as well. You clearly are a film nut, and I'm digging it. I'm
And
totally.
this
We probably
poster,
talk for like 5 more hours on this. Yeah, that looks
I
awesome.
agree. And this poster behind me is from a movie called The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra, which I always recommend to people. It is like a send up of 50 sci-fi,
Nice.
and one of the best parodies of that genre I've ever seen, because it's like nearly impossible to parody. Because
All right, I'm gonna watch that.
The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra.
Cool.
This poster is like my treasure. So
I love your
with
frame too. I think that's really cool.
thank you very much. That was my husband's contribution
Yeah,
to the decorating
it's
process.
nice. It reminds me of like an old school light box, like one of those old school movie theaters.
I
Go.
I pretend that I see like a light emanating when I open the door, like from the Ark.
Yeah,
Or
perfect.
like the briefcase in Pulp Fiction. I'm like, you know.
It's your gold. I love it.
So thank you for being with me in my living room, and good luck with the release. I can't wait to post this, and let's make sure everybody sees it, just for like every morsel of Mortal Kombat goodness that they can get before this movie is available. It's both in theaters and on HBO Max.
It is. Thank you so much for having me. This has been awesome. I'm so excited.
Yay. Well, hopefully we'll be talking to you soon with like all these other amazing projects that I hope that they involve you in, because
I I hope so too. I would love to.
boom.
I would love to come back.